Hey everyone, it's Richard Solomon, another installment in the PhD Chronicles. I want to talk about organizing your work and some of the applications I use or apps I use to help me stay on course. All right, so obviously, and I've said this before, and anyone who's doing postgraduate and certainly doctoral level studies will tell you that you have a ton. It's literally so much information, data, more so papers, documents. And so it really is helpful if you have some way of organizing that information. And so I do research. Once I know what I want to look at and what I want to look for, I do it fairly organically. I try not to be in a hurry, but inadvertently, when you go to a search engine, whether it's your university search engine, your library search engine, interestingly, during COVID-19, our own national libraries, they sent out to all their members access to EBSCOhost, which is an international database of all kinds of literature, all kinds of research papers, books, all kinds of stuff on there. So they sent out credentials so that you can log in and use that, which I thought was really, really cool. Big shout out to my friends at Nalis. When I published my book, The Signature Service Strategy, a couple of years ago, I was part of their first-time authors ceremony, which is a really cool thing. So shout out to my friends at Nalis. They're also a client of mine. I've done some work with their parent ministry and certainly Nalis itself. But back to organizing your work. So when you do a search, whether it is on Google Scholar, your university's electronic resources search engine, the library search engine, or any one of these search engines that give you access to academic literature, you will always, most times, find thousands of pieces of work. And of course, you can't and won't and shouldn't try to use all of those. You find the ones that are most related to what you are researching, what you are investigating. But even then, it's going to be a lot. And even if you, and as you should be very selective, you are going to choose a few, you still are going to end up with hundreds and hundreds of documents, papers, citations, as I said in my last video, PDF documents, books. There is no end. There's a whole lot that you're going to end up with. I have found that from the very start, it is important to file things away in folders that make sense. So for me, I have a folder that sits within this semester's work called Literature Review. And in that folder, I have subfolders for work ethic, for behavioral style, for personality, and in work ethic, I have a folder on the origins of work ethic. I have a folder on Islamic work ethic. I have a folder on Protestant work ethic. I have a folder on work ethic instruments. I have a folder on the results of work ethic, meaning that work ethic can produce better performance, better engagement, etc. But the papers are filed according to what the topic or the subtopic or topics that they belong to. And in some cases, I've got a paper filed in two places because they are related. I have found papers that show a relationship between personality and performance. So I may have a paper sitting in both places. That's just an overview. You want to start that from early on. Don't wait until you're down the road to get that going. So that's one. File your stuff very early. Have a notebook. I use, in addition to my computer, my phone, my tablet, I have a notebook that I got from a client a couple of years ago. And when I am listening to papers, because I very often listen to papers, or even when I'm reading papers, I use the notebook to make notes. At the top of the sheet or the page, I will have the name of the author and the year. And I will make notes about important ideas or useful ideas coming out of that paper. yeah, or data or information or conclusions or methods or whatever it is I find useful for my work, I am making notes. This notebook that I'm referring to is a leather-bound notebook. It's not something that I'm going to throw away. It's something I can refer to. I will go back to it and use some pieces of it, because sometimes I don't use everything that I found. And when I use it, I put a squiggly line through it. I can continue to read the work that is there, or the notes I've made, but it tells me I have used this in that particular place. Now the reference is there, so that, or the citation is there, so that I can find where I've used it in my work. All right, so you want to be organized, and you want to be extremely careful with being organized. You don't want to do it in a way that is sort of ad hoc and if you feel like it. So that's one. All right, applications that I use. This is just what I use. You know, people have all kinds of different ones, but these are just mine. For writing, I have two applications that I use. And in order to tell this properly, I have to tell a story. So I use a MacBook Pro. I have used MacBook Pros for the last 10 years. Yes, it's the last 10 years. Actually, my first MacBook Pro still runs. It's slow because, you know, programs have gotten older. The only thing I've ever done to it is change the battery. I took out the battery and I put in a new one, and it still runs all these years later. As a matter of fact, all the MacBook Pros I've ever bought, and this is not an advertisement for Mac, but to tell this story and to make this make sense. So I use a MacBook Pro, and I have Microsoft Office for Mac. And I've had that from 10 years ago, yeah? I ran into a challenge last year when I purchased my last MacBook Pro, because I typically would change them out in maybe 3.5 years. Because I mean, the business buys, it's a device I have that my business owns. So it's expensed off the books after 3 years, so that you can, you know, if you choose to, you can give it to someone, repurpose it, whatever it is, donate it, whatever you want. But here I have a new one. And for some reason, my old version of Microsoft Office for Mac did not work on my new MacBook. I had to buy Microsoft Office 365. And believe it or not, I tried to purchase it and I couldn't. It wouldn't run my credit card. I called them, I escalated, and then I said, you know what, forget this. So I started for my own work, my normal everyday work. This is not my academic work, but my everyday work, using Pages, which is a word processing equivalent that comes native for the Mac. It's a Mac program, and Mac has its own suite of Office type programs, yeah? Pages, Numbers, Keynote, etc. So I started to use all of those, and I learned them happily. So I am now very fluent, if you want, conversant with Pages and so on. I ran into a problem, though, for my academic work, because Pages would not talk to my citation engine. I'm going to talk about the citation engine in just a bit. And so, and if you're doing academic work, you must cite. I talked about that already. So I had to now find software that would talk to it. And I found OpenOffice. This is open source software that you can just download and use for free. It runs kind of like Word, but it has some differences and I dare say some shortcomings in terms of my own preferences. But I downloaded it. It talks to my citation engine, which is the next software that I'm going to talk to you about in a short bit. It talks to my citation engine. So that was what I wanted, and I started using that. So now I was using Pages for my work, and then I was using OpenOffice, not Microsoft, OpenOffice for my academic work. In those days, I was applying to universities to get accepted to do a doctoral program. I wasn't yet accepted. Yeah. Once I became accepted, once I got accepted by the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and I got accepted by a couple other universities as well, the university gave its students, all students get this, a subscription to Microsoft Office 365, the newest version of Microsoft Office. And you do have that for the duration of the program. So I was able to now use that. So now I've switched back to Microsoft Word. I still use Pages because some documents are in Pages and I'm not going to change them, and I'm able to work with both of those across there. So I use Microsoft Word, and it talks to the citation engine, which is very important. You need to find something that works for you. Most people will use Microsoft Word, right? So that's two. Software. Let's talk about citations. Now, you need a proper referencing manager that will manage both your citations and your referencing. If you don't know what that is, check out my previous video about citations and referencing. I use Zotero. It's free software. You just download it and you install it on your computer, and it's a plugin that works with Microsoft Word. It works with OpenOffice, so that you can tell Microsoft Word pretty much, put in a citation here, and then it will take you back to Zotero, where you can indicate which citation you want, and once you say include or apply, whatever it is, it will put the citation in the format that you have set for that particular work. Yeah? So that is really important. Now, how do you put information into this into Zotero? In this case, that's what I use. And there are others. There's Mendeley. I know there's a native one on Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word has its own citation engine. I don't use it. I prefer Zotero for a number of reasons. One of the things that Zotero does is that it will back up your referencing to their, I guess, in the cloud. So you don't lose your references in the event that something happens to your machine. And I'll talk about backups in a bit. You need to be able to find your references and your citations, or your references. So you load your references based on type, where you found it, who's the author, the year, when you accessed it, all that stuff, who's the publisher, and they have templates. So you will say, for example, academic journals, we use a lot of those. You go, you click, you say add, say what do you want to add, academic journal, name of the journal, etc. Quick trick, academic journals have something called a DOI number. Document something identifier. I don't remember what it is. Just like books have an ISBN number. So if you use a DOI, there is a magic wand. You click the magic wand and you put in the DOI, paste the DOI. 99% of the times, 99.9 if you want, percent of the times, for me, it pulls up all the information about that article or that book or whatever it is. Yeah? So you don't have to put each line in, and it remembers it. It stays there. So every time you want to refer, you just go ahead and do that. Now remember, for a piece of a doctoral study, you are going to have hundreds, if not more, of references. So you don't want to do that manually. You want to do that by using this engine. It's very, very useful. I would be lost if I had to do this manually. I remember when I was doing my last MBA, when we were doing assignments, I would do them manually. You know, at the end, I would go back and just put them all in and so on. And my friend Lyle said, you know, you should use Zotero. And I said, okay, what's Zotero? I checked it out, and it works really well. It's very simple. As I said, there are others, but Zotero works for me. And that is really helpful. So it is a go-to application, all right, Zotero. And it's free. The next one I use, I've referred to this a couple times already in terms of applications, is Speechify. Speechify, I think it was created by a guy who's dyslexic, and so he has trouble reading. And so what it pretty much does is that you can put text, PDF documents, Word documents, whatever it is on there, and it will read to you. You can choose the voice, you can choose the speed, it will tell you how long it will take to read. There are little glitches from time to time, but generally I find Speechify works, especially for journal articles. So I will load them on, I will listen, I will make notes, and usually I would then delete them because I have the articles filed away. I can always refer to them if I need to, so I don't have to keep all of them on there. But I use Speechify, works really, really well for me. I endorse it. It's a great software. And here's the nice thing. You can have it on your computer. You can have it on your phone. So I've put it on my phone. And so if I am driving, my phone links to the Bluetooth in my vehicle. And or I put on one earbud because, you know, you want to be able to hear what's going on around you, and I can listen. I can be doing other things. So that's really, really useful because you have so much to cover that you want to use your time as wisely as possible. If I am waiting, which is something I don't like to do, you know, sometimes you go somewhere for service or whatever it is, you're going to get something done, and you have to wait, all right? But I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my time. So Speechify helps me to listen. I may be listening for 5-10 minutes, but listen, and that adds value for me and my work down the road. So yeah, those are some of the applications I use. I know there are others that I will be using because I haven't gotten to the stage of gathering data as yet. I haven't gotten to the stage of analyzing data. So for now, those are the ones: Microsoft Word, Zotero, and of course Speechify. Of course, I use things like Google Chrome, and because I use a Mac, I use, what is it called? I use Safari as my the engine that I use for searching. Well, it's not a search engine, right? But I use Safari for going online and so on. So I use Safari and Google Chrome. Why both? Well, sometimes, depending on where I'm going, Google Chrome will give me a better result. Sometimes Safari will give me a better result. Honestly, my go-to is Safari, being a Mac user, but I do use Google Chrome from time to time. To upload this video, I'm going to use Google Chrome. All right. So those are the applications that I use a lot. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. More of the PhD Chronicles as we keep going. Right. Take care.